It's kind of weird, but I'll just give you guys a problematic implication of this view. It's problematic because if we think this way, then it's very hard to explain how science works, because science relies heavily on mathematical skills. So if scientists study the nature and they need math to study nature, how can we say math is not a part of nature? So do you guys follow me so far? Okay. So the second one here is implications. So now we're moving on to disproving premises. The first strategy to disprove the premises is that to realize that since premises are often conclusion in themselves, we can use these two strategies to disprove the premises. The first one is conclusion and conclusions. So the second strategy is for you to determine if the premise is just an assumption. If it is an assumption, it's very easy for you to dismiss, because you'll just say it's an assumption. We don't have to believe it. And three is for you to realize that as long as you disprove one of the premises, you have disproved the whole argument. You don't need to, if there are 15 premises, if there are 100, you do not need to disprove all 100 of them, or all 15 of them. You need to disprove one. And this whole thing comes out. And here I have an example. I'll read it out to you. I'll explain it for a little bit. The first premise one is if people have OBE, and that stands for out-of-body experiences, too long, I don't want to write it down, then people have a CM, and what the CM stands for is a Cartesian mind. And for our purpose, what the Cartesian mind is really just the soul. So if people have out-of-body experiences, then people have a soul. People have out-of-body experiences all the time. Therefore, people have a soul. Who agrees? Good, no one agrees. That's great. Oh, one agrees. Not so good. I'm just kidding. But can anyone point out what's wrong with this based on number 2? Is there something, can we disprove one of these as the conclusion or one of these assumptions? And remember, we just need to disprove one.
Your second premise is provable.
Exactly. So we can say this is an assumption. We can only assume that people have out-of-body experiences because we can never prove that they actually have out-of-body experiences. And odds are, I don't want to say that the crazy woman who told me she just had her soul just came out of her just had an out-of-body experience, right? So this is an assumption, and this is bad. It's actually valid, but it's unsound. So now that we're done with the premises, the third strategy is for you to just point out fallacies and logic. This, in a way, is the easiest thing to identify, but in other ways, it's actually the hardest. Because, again, they're philosophers. Why would they make mistakes in their logic? And often they make mistakes in their logic because there are confusions about the language. And that's because our language is usually very confusing. So confusions with the language not only makes the philosophers make mistakes, but also makes us, people reading it, believe in what they have to say. So the first thing you want to do when you come up with an argument, you want to be able to break it down to its bones. So you can see exactly what the philosopher wants to get. You can see the premises, you can see the conclusions. So you want to reduce it to the bones. So you can and once you've done that, usually it's very easy to identify what the fallacy and the logic is. The second strategy is sometimes even after you've reduced it, it's not very clear to spot where the fallacy in the logic is. And how we can prove something is valid or invalid goes back to my earlier definition of a valid argument and invalid argument. So if you remember, a valid argument is one where if you assume all the premises to be true, the conclusion is necessarily true. And an invalid one is if you assume all the premises to be true, the conclusion is not necessarily true. So it could be false. So this is just used. So if you give all the premises a true value, that is, if you assume all of them true, and check if the conclusion is true or not. If it's false, then you know there's something wrong with the logic. So assign truth values. Truth values. And here's another example I would like you guys to look at. OBE, the same thing, out of body experience. CF, Cartesian mind, which is just the soul. So it's conceivable that people have out of body experiences. Out of body experiences demonstrate that people have a soul. And therefore, people have a soul. So can someone point out what's wrong with this? Do we agree with it? No, very good. So I can tell you that all these are probably true. Or at least, so.
There's problems with the language, like you're saying it's conceivable, you're not saying people have.
Exactly. So the proper conclusion is not that people have a soul, but it's conceivable that people have a soul. Very good. So now I've just given you 3 ways, and I'm out of examples, and I believe that time is right. So I would like to give you another example. I won't tell you which method you have to use, but hopefully you can point out what's wrong with it. The first premise is, I say, ouch, when I'm in pain. The second one is, you guys say, everyone else says ouch, others say ouch. And conclusion is, others are in pain, or feel pain. Do we agree with the conclusion? Others feel pain. Wait, so you're saying the person sitting next to you never feels pain? Well, that's not what I think. No, like this, I'm not saying like when I say ouch now, but in general, when I say ouch, that means I'm in pain. Or if I give any if I give any painful expressions, that means I'm in pain. And the second premise is other people will give the same painful expressions. And the conclusion is, that tells me that others have pain. Does that make sense? Come on. Yes, no, hands up. Does that make sense? It doesn't make sense. So why doesn't it make sense?
Because you can't project what other people, let's say, feel what comfortable to say. If you say, I say I'm in pain, I might say shit.
Very good point, but what I'm trying to get at here is not what exactly I'm doing when I say, but I just mean it's an expression of pain. So when I'm expressing my pain, I might say ouch, I might have a painful expression on my face, and whatever that is. So if you see a similar expression in other people's face. This is very general. We're not talking about anything specific right now. We're not saying like it has to be saying ouch. So would you say other people have pain because they seem like they're in pain, like because they're in painful expressions and whatnot? I don't know. I think the intuition is that you think they will be in pain. No, you don't think so? So you guys are right. This is actually not a good argument. And And this is actually a question that has troubled philosophers for like more than a century, and I don't think they'll ever come to an answer with this.